Welcome to All For United WFC. Hello and welcome to All For United with me, John Foster, MUFC. Got a real good show tonight. I'm really looking forward to it. Got Andy and G on the show. How are you both doing? You okay?
Yeah, I'm great, thank you.
Really well, thank you.
Awesome, and congratulations on your win yesterday. We're going to be talking a lot about that throughout the show. Natalie, how you keeping, mate? You okay?
I'm doing good, John. Happy to be on, and obviously it's the first time. I know you sort of wanted me to touch on it, but I'm just going to go with it. First time since the FCAs. Thanks everyone who voted. Thanks everyone for always watching, subscribing. Thanks for even these two guys. We obviously came down, supported them when we did, and then obviously you've been again, John. But just to try and promote women's football and talk about women's football and have it, out there. It's really good, and so I just want to thank everyone who watches, who voted, who comments, and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, and the night itself was really memorable as well, wasn't it? It wasn't just a case of just going down there collecting an award. It was, we saw people that we watch on YouTube and obviously people that from the past and from the men's game. And it was just all around good night, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's what I think it is. It's good, because obviously I only started watching women's football through Man United. So obviously there's people there, big names there that I always spoke about the men's team with. And so it was just interesting. So I was saying to them, I'm here with my podcast and it's a women's football podcast. And we go, I think everyone knows I go and watch the women a lot, but, knowing that I talk about it all the time and stuff. So it's good that they sort of supported that still. And, it's good seeing women's game grow and more people wanting to talk about it and be included in these kind of awards. It's good to see everyone's on board.
Excellent, Steve. Yeah. I know Andy's having a bit of trouble with his camera. I'm surprised he's using the Black Country area is okay. It's the Manchester area that usually has a dodgy Wi-Fi. Can you hear me okay, Andy?
Yeah, I've not had a good start. It's been quite bad connection, so I lost you for a while. Hopefully, I'm back.
Yeah, no problem, mate. It happens all the time. It's normal. It's fine. I'm going to put this. You stole my song here already. So next time Carly scores, we will be encouraging Andy to go back on the pitch again. As fans, we're allowed to do that. So great scenes there, and we will put that video up at some point throughout the show. Andy, let's talk a little bit about Man United first. You're a Man United fan. Talk to us a little bit about your background as a Man United fan and regards to the Man United women's team as well.
Yeah, just so you know, it is really broken, so we'll try and answer as best I can. It's hard to hear. Don't know whether you can hear me.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, so it's family orientated, basically for me in regards to Man United. It's purely been with the whole family. He loves Man United, so we've been going up to Manchester for many years now. Not as much, but yeah, for a Man United background, I really memorable moments up with family and friends. So, it's in the blood, I should say, in the blood.
And what did you think about when Man United women's team got announced back in 2018 as a coach as well? Was it surprising? And what were like the tiers 3 to 6 kind of saying about Man United having a women's team?
Yeah, I'll try and answer again from what I picked up. It was a long time coming, wasn't it, for such a club like Man United, world-renowned women's team, 2017, to finally announce it in 2018 was just incredible. Needed to happen. Like I say, it should have happened many, many years ago. It was great news, and ultimately, they've had a good journey so far. in my opinion. So it's good. The progress is good in my opinion in terms of where they're at, especially in the middle of a pandemic. In terms of they've had to build the club.
Yeah, I was going to come to Nash for a second on that one. So, Andy did say that it was a long time coming. We know that, don't we, as fans? We know that it should have been sooner, but the way the club sold it to us was we didn't just want to have a team just for the sake of it. We wanted to make sure foundations were in place first, and that's the kind of story that we were sold. And whether or not that's the truth, we don't know, but that's definitely the story that we went with.
Yeah, I think you just have to sort of go with it, whether that's a story, and I think people can say that's not really the story and say all this, but it is what it is. We are where we are. I think it's been a good thing for women's football because it's like, I would never been watching women's football. Loads of people would never been watching it. So I think it has brought a sort of load of new people to the game. I never would have gone to Stourbridge if it wasn't for me sort of starting watching Man United's women's game. And I think it's opened. And I think where we joined Championship, it sort of opened up that level to a lot of people. And then it's opened up, obviously WSL was always big, but, it's opened up these kind of levels. And, even now, like local to me, FC United, that's through me going and watching Sheffield and, just getting all those connections. I think women's football isn't, it's growing, but it's not very big. So I think if you know one person, they usually know another person, and, it's opened up the women's football up to like loads of new people, and it's just good for everyone that, a team like Man United is in the game now, and just hopefully keeps growing for us. But, it's good for everyone. I know that a lot of people are dropping down, girls that have maybe might not make it, then drop down and all this kind of thing. So I think it's good. More teams out there, the better.
T, what was your initial reaction when Man United was coming into women's football?
You might not appreciate my answer, but I thought it wasn't right that they didn't start from the bottom of the pyramid and work their way up.
I was going to ask this, but on that note, then, because I knew this was going to be a good debate to have, we went in at like a full team, full timers. If they had went in like lower down, is that kind of what you would have wanted to see? And Andy, you can jump in on this one as well. I mean, should we have gone part-time first? Should we have been allowed to go straight in a full-time? How would you guys wanted that to have worked?
I don't really know.
I'll let you answer first, and then I'll counter it.
So I haven't really put too much thought into it, other than I don't know. And I'm that sort of person. I'm a grafter, and I kind of always want to. For me, it's like a level of respect thing because, you don't want to be the Man City men's who bought their way into everything sort of thing, because it just gives rivals that easy way in, doesn't it? But as you said, I'd never really thought about it as that. Might you have had such? Because I would say United's got the best fans in the league. So might you have had that had you have started from the bottom? I don't know.
It's a good point. Andy, do you want to jump into that one?
Yeah, I mean, I can see where people was coming, and when Natalie was talking, it was going through my head. You can see kind of where people were. It's not fair, but the fact is, you imagine Man United coming in at tier 5, which is where we are, Stourbridge. You'd be in trouble. Teams in and around us, you'd have it. You could offer all the opportunities, but the best players just want to go and play badge. For me, it was all about application process needed to be, which is, Man United have a club structure. This is the money they're going to put in. So it was the right decision for me in the long run, really, in terms of going into the Championship. Just because of protection of the lower tiers, because Man United is such a big club. They'd have just attracted all the best players in and around those levels without a shadow of a doubt.
Oh, and absolutely, and I don't disagree with that. But you know what football's like, and I think most of what is said to rival teams in football, you don't actually mean. So it's just the case of probably having to deal with forever being the team that was 50, but I hope not, because you have been phenomenal and the work rate, and you can tell the setup was already there and built before. It's not as if you were just building from the ground up at tier 3 or whatever it was. You can tell that the structure was really thought out first. So, but yeah, as from a rival fan's point of view, it's always that's gonna be ammunition, isn't it?
They've always got ammunition, G. Don't worry,
Yeah.
we're not worried about that. I just want to come in and just touch on. A lot of people say as well, though, about they mention Man United, I think, because Man United is there. But if you look at when we came in, because I've ended up reading a lot about it, West Ham, they went straight into the WSL because I think it was all reformed at that time. City, even the way they did it when they went fully professional, it's sort of at the expense of others. And I think it's just maybe talked about a bit more because it's Man United. I wouldn't have had a problem starting right at the bottom and then working our way up. But then, like what Andy's saying, would that have been at the detriment to other teams? I don't want to see other teams maybe going under because everyone's trying to play for Man United. I mean, I know Southampton, they played for license for the Championship when we did. And I know they're just basically, with what happened with COVID as well, they've just been in their league for a couple of seasons and they finally moved up to tier 3, but they were just sort of where they were. And, you know, it probably wasn't great for other teams just sort of getting beat all the time, because I know that they put in a lot of money and stuff as well. And they've finally, you know, looking at basically being in WSL eventually. So no, I see what you're saying. And I think they're always going to say we should have done it this way, we should have done it that way. I think every way would get criticised. If we had gone straight into the WSL, got criticised, went into the Championship criticised, and I think people would have said, why are we at the bottom? We shouldn't be at the bottom. So, you know, I think it's just one of those things that's going to happen no matter what we did. But we're here now, and I think people have slowly got over it. And probably will never be fully over it, but they're slowly sort of like accept the way we've done it.
Like you say, it's Man United, and I think Man United's beyond a household name in just the UK. It's Man United's household name globally. So yeah, there was always going to be stick, no matter, like you say, no matter what.
We've seen that on the women's game as well. Even though we're new, literally within like a couple of years, we've got journalists all over the world making stories up maybe in the women's game, or not making stories up, but maybe blowing them out of proportion a little bit. And I'm talking about transfer rumours and knowing full well that the Man United fans will jump on them and retweet them and give them clicks. And that's within like a couple of 3 years of existence. But because of that name, Manchester United, you know, it works, and that's what they want. Man United are up obviously in the WSL. Aston Villa are as well. Gee, I know that's like your team. I know that you follow the men's team. I don't know if you follow the women's team as closely, but they are doing really well for themselves. They're 7th in the league. What are your thoughts on the women's team?
I don't follow the women as religiously as I do the men, strangely enough. I don't know why.
Oh, gee. Oh, gee.
I guess I always followed Aston Villa women as much as I could. And now recently that sort of opened up. So I have got the opportunity to watch their games more and things like that. And I always play when Villa are playing as well. So that's never helped. But again, that is starting to change with midweek games coming up, etc. And so I've kind of followed players on Twitter. But what I do like about Villa women and following them how I have, I've kind of done it in a more personal way. So I've followed the players and followed their personal journeys. Like I followed Jodie Hutton on Twitter for years and other players. And that's what I kind of like about grassroots in the women's game, is you do kind of get that much more personal sense, that personal touch, and you have the opportunity to meet the players and learn the game through them rather than the club.
Nat, if you want to jump in on that, because that's such a massive topic, isn't it? You know, meeting the players, but also Player FC as well. G kind of just, you know, following players around. We've seen that a lot. I think we saw it first with Jackie Gronin, then pressing his coming across, and now we're doing the same, aren't we, Nat? We'll go to Leicester to follow Jess Sigsworth, and I'm not a Leicester fan, but I still travel all the way to Leicester just to Jess well. And
I think it's nice that you can see like, well, gee, I know Carla Ward quite a bit, and I ended up watching her a bit in Sheffield, and then obviously she went to Birmingham, and now she's at Villa. So now I go and see Villa. And the day before we came to your game, we were at Villa Park when they played Arsenal, and I think that's what a lot of people are worried about with the TV. Oh, it's going to be this, not going to be good for the fans, but it actually is good for the women's game because, like you said, all games used to be on Sunday at 2:00, and I know obviously. With your team, it is still that. Summer Championship is still that. But I think with these different kickoff times, it's enabled more people to see more women's football, which I think is really good. But in terms of the players is why you do it. Players is why I do it, why I fell in love, why it's so easy to go and start supporting women's football and not just sort of Man United, even coming and watching, Stourbridge. It was great because you all just saying hi, saying thank you for support. And for me, I don't even think it's that great support sometimes, but it's, if it's just a handful of us, but, you really appreciate it. So that's what makes it worthwhile. And that's why I always say, like, to everyone, go and watch your local team. Like my local team, I'm from Manchester, FC United's local to me. Going to go see them on Sunday. So, it's important that, we have our WSL teams, we have our championship teams, but it's important also the tiers below that and always supporting them. And, I suppose it'll be interesting to hear how you guys, I know John's got his own question, but like how it was during COVID for you guys, because, I thought it was really bad. Well, I thought it was sad. I understood why they had to do it, but, the championship and the WSL was able to continue. And I thought there was times where I thought, you can let the other tiers continue. It should be able to. The men's side was, I thought that was, this upset me when I saw it getting called off, and and it must have been hard for you guys, but it's glad we're finally here, we're finally back, finally have fans, and hopefully it's just going to keep growing and growing for, everyone, not just the WSL, it's the whole women's pyramid.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sorry, either, just touch on those COVID times,
I just agree with everything that was said then, because the women's game, I think people do associate men's and women's football together too much. And yes, that sounds hypocritical. We're asking for equality. But in a sense, you kind of have to view them as two different sports. They're played differently. They're run differently. They're almost managed differently in some ways because, and the whole structure. With Stourbridge ladies, we're what, tier 5 now. We're 3 promotions away from championship football. So everything that you're giving to us now is absolutely feeding into the future of WSL, because we're lucky enough to be here before it was fashion to follow women's football as well, because it's so out there now that it will happen. But it's people like yourselves who have been there from the start, who have really enabled this, who have been pushing and been the voice for us players who do get held back. And I can't go on Twitter and say what I want to say about the FA, but you guys do a brilliant job recently, especially of absolutely being that voice that we really need sometimes. And it really is appreciated, because 10 players at our game that could be an extra 20%. It could be an extra 50%. 10 players at a WSL or a Premier League game wouldn't be noticed even. So yeah, it is really appreciated.
And did you want to just jump on that? I like how difficult it was for a tier 5 or tier 6 team back then during COVID.
Yeah, it was difficult for everyone, wasn't it? But just jumping on, I'll touch on that, but just jumping on kind of G's point about the men and women's game, I definitely agree with Jane, and we've said this quite vocally, really, that, yes, there has to be equality, there has to be the same, respect for the women's game as there is for the men. There isn't, unfortunately, by some people in this world, and that's a mindset change. But it is a different game, without a shadow of a doubt. I've done both. I've managed both women and men, and it is completely different. You have to manage both differently. What you can say to a man on the sideline, even though I'm quite passionate and a bit vocal, as people know, but you can't say to a woman, you can't say it to some men as well, of course. But ultimately, it is a different game, and you get a different attitude. You massively get a different attitude. The club have seen that. What you've got in the women's section, and and I'm trying to be respectful to men's team here. You could make a men's player move for £5 or £10 extra game a month. You know what I mean? You can't do that with the women's game. It's about togetherness. It's about where they feel comfortable. It's about friendships. It's about family with a women's game, in my opinion. So, yeah, I definitely agree with what G's saying, really. It is a different playing field. However, we have got to start changing mindsets. And one thing I've noticed over my kind of 4 years with Stourbridge, definitely, is that it only takes one game for that person who's thinking, I don't want to watch women's football. You just go down once. Once you've been down, your whole mindset changes without a shadow of a doubt. And we've seen that around Stourbridge with the fans. They come down, they watch one game, and they're completely hooked. That's what's great about it. We just need to get more people doing that, really. In regards to COVID, it was tough, and I would say we were one of the teams that it was really tough for, because we'd been absolutely romping the league twice. You know what I mean? We were 1 week away from ultimately sealing the deal in the first time the pandemic came around, and in a way, I'm kind of glad that didn't happen, because it softened the blow, because it ended up being null and voided. So for us as a group of players, and the management, it was tough. The second time round was even tougher, and we ended up playing a first round qualifying match against Wolves, which was history for this club, behind closed doors. It was horrific. Absolutely horrific. All I can see is Connor's comments coming on the screen. What a guy. So it was tough. G will tell you, we played Wolves in that first round of the FA Cup, which should have been 500, 600 people there easily. We would have had. Unfortunately, we ended up playing, behind closed doors, and it was really hard. It was really tough. We lost that game, but it was about the day for us, and we just didn't get that at that occasion that we deserved. So there was a lot of impact, but we kept the players busy, didn't we, G? We kept you busy over the COVID period. We looked after you, made sure you were doing stuff ready for when it restarted, and it did, and we're flying again.
Oh, listen, I think it's a shame that every club doesn't have an Andy Fisher and a Mike Harris and the other guys that we have on board, because they're honestly fantastic. If I could waste 20 minutes of your time telling you the things that they set up for us. We've got like match plans before the game that tell us all sorts of things, and then throughout COVID we were having sort of Zoom sessions whenever we would have training sessions, and they were really thought out on trying to keep them as intense. What can they do at home that would be as intense as what they were doing on a pitch, and we were having such a laugh, and I was really looking forward to those Zoom sessions. And I think what that did a really good job at wasn't just football. It remained like it kept a structure in our life. It was the only thing for me throughout for a long time, because I lost my job. Me and my partner, we both lost our jobs. And he was the goalkeeper for Stourbridge, and we were literally in the whole time. So it kept structure, and Mike was having Zoom sessions, and we were literally just talking about football, and we were listening to football podcasts and pausing it and wasting time talking about football. And I just think it's not that every club doesn't have people that want to do that, it's just that the club's invested in people that they know have got the time and the absolute ability to give us those little extra things, because I think that's what matters. That's why we fight so hard for the badge, because we've got so much respect for one another from top to bottom,
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I can take this conversation in so many different ways. First of all, Andy, is that Harry one of your coaches? Am I right in thinking that? Is he one of the staff as well?
Correct, yeah, that's Harry O'Neill, yeah. First team coach.
Okay, let's do a bit of a background on yourself, then, Andy. Obviously, when did you get into women's coaching? And he says that you joined Stourbridge, I think, was it 4 years ago? G, was you at Stourbridge 5 years ago? Was you there just before Andy?
Yeah, I was. My manager was called Keith. Keith brought me into the club, and then I had a year out, and Bishop pulled me back in.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that then. So, Andy, when you joined Stourbridge, what were your thoughts when you went into the club? What was your expectations? What was the club's expectations on you? How do you feel that those initial stages went?
Yeah, well, I've got a bit of an interesting story to tell with that situation, because the club's, and G knows this, the club's ambition was there from day one. Stourbridge were kind of the team that they had there which I inherited was top draw. You know, there's some really quality players. So I felt really lucky when I was asked to interview for the job, and then finally got it. I just won the league at a local club, Cuford, at the women's league. So I've just been promoted there with them. So obviously for me it was a step up, because Stourbridge had just been, even though they didn't win the league, they've just been promoted up into tier 6 West Midlands regional. So it was a definite step up for me. So I came in, I could see the club's ambition, but obviously originally, at that point 5 years ago, the players were paying subs. They're having to pay for their own tracksuits and kits. There's a core group of players who were good footballers, but very together, been together over the last 2 or 3 years. New manager comes in, and John, you know me, you've seen me on the sideline. G definitely knows me. I'm a particular type of manager, particular type of leader. And you come in, and the fact of the matter is, and it's the same now with new players, it's the same now with new staff. I'm Marmite in a sense. People either like me or they don't. If you don't like me, you either learn to get on with me because it's for the better of yourself or the team, or you don't like me and you move on. And within that first year of my time at Stourbridge, we finished the season with 10, 11 players, because I lost a core group of 7 players who were very good footballers, but are very close knit. So, and they just didn't like my management style, which is absolutely fine. I had a particular way I was managing, and they didn't like it. So that first year became a real difficult year. The second year became a second year of building basically a brand new team. And then the rest is history, ultimately, because I managed to do it my way. And when you've said you've got scrolling along the bottom in terms of, the guy at Manchester United who's gone in there and how it affect you. You go in there as a manager and you don't know how players are going to respond to you. You don't know whether players are going to stick around. They're going to like your management style, and they either do and they deal with it. They either don't and they go, or you have to change your management style. And I'm definitely not that type of person. I've mellowed, I think, a little bit over the last few years. That's probably down to winning games, I think. I wasn't mellow at half time in the change rooms on Sunday, I must add. But that's the way it is with a manager. You come in, you go into a new team. It's a big challenge, a really big challenge, especially a team who's done pretty well. So my story, early doors with Stourbridge, was a real big building process. Really over the first 2 or 3 years, and it still is now in different ways.
That is great out Andy's LinkedIn skill there, because that's something I'm going to bring to you shortly. But I just wanted to hear G's side of it, on the opposite side. So you've got a new manager coming in. What were your kind of thoughts then? Obviously, a new manager coming in, different ways of doing things. What's kind of going through your head at this time?
So it was on Twitter actually, and it was the Stourbridge ladies account had messaged, and they were like, "I heard you're a decent player. Like, do you want to pop down?" And I don't know, I think I must have been like, all right then, because I'm football through and through, and I always have been, and even when I was younger, I was always wanting there to be a Stourbridge ladies team, because Stourbridge, if you're from the Black Country, you know about Stourbridge, don't you? So it's always a club that I wanted to play for. So as soon as I heard there was a ladies team, I always wanted my opportunity. But like Fisher said, there really is that when Keith had it, he'd done a good job at building his team, and I think I tried to come into that team at the wrong time, because football team in general, and I think women even more, are quite cliquey people. So I was finding it hard to break the clique, and then I took that year out, and then I think I came in then quite the opposite. I came in at just the right time during a rebuild with a manager who was very adamant about, look, you've not just got to be good with the ball at your feet, you've got to have the right attitude and understand where the club's going. And we've seen very good footballers not make it because their attitude hasn't been there. And I think that's exactly what you need from a manager, and Keith was a brilliant manager, by the way. That's nothing at all on, because Keith really was. He got Stourbridge to the level where Andy picked them up from, and they were big boots to fill, and Fisher filled them just in a completely different way. And if it wasn't for Fisher, I think he was kind of the brainchild of everywhere that Stourbridge Ladies has gone now, in the sense of us having a budget and not paying subs and then getting expenses paid. And we really are blessed and quite envied. We're envied. People quite look forward to playing Stourbridge, I think, and wanting to come and give us a bit of a thumping and always trying. You know, it might not be the scoreline, but we'll leave with bruises because people enjoy getting stuck in on us. And I think it is because of that fact that we're lucky Stourbridge Ladies is 2, 3, if not 4 steps ahead of a lot of these clubs, even in higher leagues, sadly. So,
yeah. A couple of things there then, Nat. Obviously, at the moment we're going through a bit of a transitional period at Man United. New manager coming in, completely different way of playing. Are the players settled? Are they not? Is Skinner settled? What's going through Skinner's head? So obviously, hearing like the managers and player side of things, it puts a different spin on things, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I suppose just to both Andy and G, you know, obviously when that core group left, when you know, like when Andy was with those 10 players, I don't know what the talk of the dressing room or talk of maybe like fans and above Andy, but was there a worry? Were you ever worried at any point, or was it like, no, I believe in what I'm doing, and you know, I know we're going to be there, and obviously now look at you are, you know, top of the league, and the aim is basically there, but you know, was there difficult periods when, you know, like you said, those players left and that big transitional period between managers? How was it?
So I was lucky that I wasn't actually there when a lot of the drama happened. I wasn't there when a lot of the players had walked out. But I think that's a good thing because I didn't have to be involved in any of that drama. And the players that were left were the players that when I tried to break into the original clique, they were the ones that had, like, you know, took me under their wing and were trying to get me involved. So I remember coming to that first session really nervous, hearing things along the grapevine, because, I mean, you said football's a small world, and I like to say women's football's even smaller, you know, we all know each other. So I'd heard along the grapevine, and I think Vice Chairman Andy Bullingham hit the nail on the head. He said women's football is packs and pairs, because they come in packs and pairs and they leave in packs and pairs. So, you know, if you get 7 leave, you know, you've only got to pull 1 or 2 more in, and they'll know 5 or 6 people that are willing to come with them. So, but I know what Fisher's like. He stresses now when we've got like 20 something of us. So I imagine he was stressed.
What was it like, Andy? Was it stressful then?
Yeah, I mean, you could speak to Andy Bullingham. You know, at one point, you know, I was probably 1 foot out the door, if I'm honest. Not for me. I don't give up. You know, for me, it was always a project behind the scenes, and you can see that's happened. But yeah, I think there was some tense moments. You know, results with the backing of the club, results not great at times. You know, finishing kind of mid-table, just below mid-table in those first 2 seasons. But I think Andy Bullingham knew where we were. You know, where I wanted to take the club, and you know, so once those players left and I was doing it my way, it only took a season really, and then the club were where we wanted it to be. For me, it wasn't just about the on-field stuff; it was about what you see today, which is, you know, the women's team, development team, the under-18s, the academy, the college, and all the girls sections. You know, players like G coaching. It was the bigger picture from day one for me, and I haven't done that by myself. You know, there's absolute geniuses around me who've supported that, but that was always the drive for me with Stourbridge. So it was tough in those days, but look at it now; it's incredible. And yes, it's tough now for many different reasons. I would say many different reasons.
Until I actually started looking into Stourbridge and the women's team, especially, I had no idea how well structured it was and the amount of age groups that there are. And I think it's a real massive achievement just to get that set up and get, you know, not just get the players in, but get the coaching staff or any volunteers. Because for a Tier 5 team, Tier 6, obviously, before this season, It's something that I don't expect Stourbridge to have, or any team at that kind of level. But it is. It's like it's so well run. It seems well run from the outside, and someone who's still learning. I'm still learning people's names and everything. But I'm seeing things the way it's set up. It's like it's really there. The foundations are in place. Part of me is thinking, no wonder you're top of the league, because like it seems like that you've got that backing and you've got that foundation there. And obviously a lot of pressure on yourself, Andy, to make sure that it works. But so far it is working. And just one more thing, just before we change the subject slightly. What do you think about the about managers being given time? Because obviously that's a big thing in men's football and women's football now at the higher league, higher level. Do you think managers can get not sacked too early, but fans turn on them too early?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's ridiculous some of the time scales that I think managers have been given in around the highest level. But I suppose there is different scenarios to it, and I'm talking from a Man United fan here. I mean, when you look at the starting 11 and the squad that Ollie puts out week in, week out, and you're going to lose 4-2 to Leicester, and the performances are not great, and I'm probably going to get shot down here by a lot of Man United fans, but you do have to question it. You have to think, actually, and what more rebuild is needed. You're at the biggest club in the world. You've got the best players in Fernandes, Pogba, etc., Ronaldo, and you're losing 2 or 3 on the bounce. There are questions going to be raised, I think, but I think on other scenarios, managers don't get enough time, and I think, for example, going back to our level, really, I could have gone easily. The club could have turned around and said, listen, you've lost 7 players of our best players, and our top goal scorer is gone because you've upset her, and actually you finish in mid-table. This is your second season, but that manager's got the drive and the commitment and the passion behind the scenes, and I think that's what kept me at the club. And ultimately, a season later, where we are, the season after that, and we're looking for promotion into tier 4. So it's a difficult question. It's a 50-50 one, I would say, across the country, really, in terms of opinions. But a lot of it for me goes on what's going behind the scenes and what the people behind the scenes see. Really.
Yeah, for me, I think you got to take each thing individually. I think you can't, somebody might take 3 years and you think, oh, well, no, they should be doing better. And somebody, I just think with the Ollie situation, it is what it is. But then I know some people are upset over Willie Kirk, who's just been fired from Everton. But then you can look at it. Did he build up his team well enough? I think there's all these kind of things. And I think you have to look at all of them. I mean, even now I'm seeing we've seen it, John. Some people have never wanted Mark Skinner in, and they're saying him out and all this because of what he did in America. But I think you just need to sort of give him, definitely a full season, a transfer window, see what he does, take it one step at a time. I mean, he sort of sounds like he's got the full backing of the club. So I think and it sounds like from speaking to you, Andy, that was really important, if having the backing from people above you and people at the side, and that investment is obviously as well what's got you to where you guys are going.
Definitely, 100%. And I think with the Skinner situation, I mean, ultimately, this club was the team itself, regardless of the badge has helped, and the investment has helped, of course it has. But actually, it was formed 2018, it was 3 years ago. In those 3 years, we've had 2 pandemic years in a sense. 1 pandemic, but 2 pandemic years. You had the first year of pandemic, which was absolutely, rocked everybody. The second year, again, tough, no fans, etc. The championship is different. Casey did well in the championship. Clearly, Man United did well in the championship. But that step up, even in the women's period, is massive. It's absolutely massive, huge. You can see that. So for me, he has to have the time to go in and build, especially after take the pandemic out of it, and he's been there for 3 years. Different story. We're not talking about that. We're talking about first season. He's sitting 4th. You'd expect Champions League position. I think that's what you'd out, wouldn't you? I believe so. Yeah. But we'll see.
I think the important thing that you said was transfer windows because, you know, at our level, you can shorten that time because essentially we can transfer the entire season if we wanted to. You could say, right, you've lost 5 games, you've had the opportunity to pull in these players. But I think it's really naive to say that to clubs who can only pull in players at set amount of times and then have a budget as well. You know, so I think you have to be looking at things like how many transfer windows have they managed through, what was their budget, what have they spent, and what have they done to those players that they've pulled in? Because like we were discussing earlier, you know, those I suit the way that Fisher coaches. We're on each other's wavelength, whereas there's players that won't like that. And I'm under 13s. I've had, you know, 11 and 12-year-olds leave because they're not suited to. I'm really intense. I'm full on. You've met me. You're probably aware. You can hear I've got no voice now. Never do on a Monday because I've played on a Sunday. You know, and I think it's really important, and people can forget that. You need to look at what's the manager done. Have they managed the players that they've pulled in? And I think that's how you need to judge how long a managers should be at clubs.
Just touching on that subject, and Ugly Bear in the comments saying if you don't get Champions League, just going to have to go. No, not based on that alone. You know, it's going to take a lot more than, because at the end of the day, I think a lot of the Man United fans went into this season not even thinking we was going to get top 3. Some people thought that Everton was going to leapfrog us and other teams as well. So no, it goes on a lot of other things. I do want to talk about yesterday's game. So G's lost her voice, but I will start off with yourself. G obviously won 4-1. Andy mentioned, you know, pushing for promotion at Stourbridge, and you know, is that the kind of ambition that you and the players and the team are going for this season?
Oh, we all know why we're here. You know, we know why we're here because, like I was saying, there's a flip side to everything. Like we don't pay subs, so this is my hobby and it always will be. But at the same time, I'm here to do a job. You know, and I understand that. And so I understand that my performance has to be at a certain level because we've got competition. We've got really good depth in this squad now. You know, it's a squad that's been established for 3 seasons now, even though we've only got a few games to actually look at in the records. But we're an established team now. So we all know not only are we pushing for promotion, but it's kind of like week by week we've got to perform because there's so much competition around us in the team, in the league, and it's what I want from the club, and a lot of us want from the club because we know we've been asked to get those promotions up. And again, I've mentioned Andy Blooming before, and I'll mention him again. He said the only way we can get Stourbridge playing against Man City, Liverpool, and Man United is by investing in their women's team, and they do heavily. So we know what we're here to do.
So yeah, just touching on that game then, Andy. We spoke a little bit. I think at the start of the show or before we went live about the preparation side of things. So I think you might have mentioned it. What's your mindset going into that week then? So like the 6 days building up to the game. You know, how many training sessions do you have? What kind of things do you look at? Do you look at your previous performance, or do you kind of ignore that one and look for the future game? How do you kind of structure your week?
Is that to me or is that to me? Yeah.
Yeah, go on, Andy.
Yeah, full time. It's constant. Me, Mike, and the coaches. It's every day. You know, it's absolutely constant. I mean, Mike Harris, who's the head coach, who is absolutely, you know, his coaching philosophy is incredible. His coaching ability is class. He's pretty much full time Stourbridge because he runs the academy. He does obviously the first team, and he's head coach. So it's just constant, really. We train twice a week. We prep for that, starting from Sunday afternoon as soon as we finish the game, the result. So our mindsets are, you know, as soon as we got that result yesterday, our mindset was on the FA Cup at the weekend. We'll train to that effect. We'll train the same on Thursday to that effect, and we'll prepare the players for Sunday afternoon. Obviously, we will take into account everything that happens on the Sunday before. We have to, as a management team, we have to take that and take performances and think about how we're going to plan. But the moment that Sunday happens, we're focusing on the week after because the pressure's immense. It really is the investment that Stourbridge have put into this club, and I kind of, G, will tell you, I kind of reminded the players of that yesterday at half time because I think over the last couple of weeks and at times, they kind of forgot that a little bit, and I think they needed to be reminded a little bit of to where they were, what badge they were wearing, and the investment, time, and effort that's put into these players, and they give it back. Don't get me wrong, they give it back. That that we demand that of them, but sometimes we all just need reminding of that. And my half-time team talk was purely based around exactly that. Not as calm as this, understand, but it gave a reaction. It gave a great reaction from the players, and they proved that second half yesterday.
G, can I just touch, like, obviously when Andy was, like he says, he was calm then saying it, but at half time, how did it feel then when he was saying that?
I think as players, you know what part of what team talk's directed at yourself. So a lot of it, I was like, it's one of them. So, but no. Do you know what? Everything he said in that team talk, I was like nodding, and everything, and a lot of us said after the game, we're really good at socialising, and we were at the club afterwards, and then a lot of us were saying, you know what, that was needed, because we got a bit flustered at times, and sometimes we need grounding again and just reminding where we are and who we are as well. So and that's what he is good at, and I think we're good at players at taking that rollicking when we need one as well.
Gee, you were saying that you was nodding at half time, but we as fans, we could hear everything Andy was saying, and me and Connor kept on looking at each other, and we were nodding as well. And some of the things that you were saying to the referee, to the players, we're like, yeah, that's absolutely right. That's what we was kind of thinking as well. And some of the tactical changes that you made, like when Tamworth were trying to play from the back, always going to the right fullback, and you could kind of see danger there. I don't know if you've done this on purpose, but you changed the way that you play, so there was no danger on that right hand side, because I could see within the first half of the game, it completely changed. That they was playing a long ball and was always within that battle, and it was just really good to see, like, the changes that you was making and being so close to you guys and hearing some of the conversations and the way that you're instructing the guys on the pitch. And I saw that from day one. The first game I went to against Lye, I think I put it on a little vlog that I made on Twitter, how vocal you are on the touchline. And I think me and Natalie, we've had this debate before, haven't we, regarding Skinner at the time, about how much should a manager kind of get involved? Do you want the managers to kind of be so on it, or do you want them to like sit back and let the players play? Andy, do you want to kind of jump in on that? I mean, how do you know like when to like kind of jump in and when to like let the players play?
Yeah, we do talk about that, me and Mike. Obviously, we kind of set a tone before the game. We'll have a little chat. We'll have a little chat on the sideline about how we're going to approach the first 5 or 10 minutes, whether we're going to be vocal. And if I'm honest, a lot of that is based sometimes around the opposition dugout, because and I think G made a comment yesterday. Actually, they hate it. They absolutely hate it, and the opposition players do. So you kind of, in the first 5 or 10 minutes, you start to upset their team and their management, and you get into their heads as well. So we make that decision early days whether we're going to be vocal, as much as as we need to, and we'll have chats throughout the game where we'll go, listen, let's 5 minutes, let's have a sit back, let the players play a little bit, because we don't want to overwhelm them, which can happen sometimes with instructions. So yeah, we make those decisions on a match by match basis, but most of the time we're vocal. When they do something good, we make sure the whole of the pitch and the whole of the stadium, the stand, the pitch, whatever, they hear it, really, because I think it's important.
I just want to touch G. I suppose that question back to you, like, as a player, what do you feel like? Do you like it when you're in your manager shouting and saying do this? But then I suppose if the manager digs you out in front of people, how is it? Or I'm not saying Andy digs you out, but you know what I mean? Like, how is it when you got a manager like Andy?
I don't know. It's one of them where you sort of zone out. So as a team, I don't really think we hear what the management are saying, which, you know, because you sort of zone out to it, but the opposition are hearing everything, and Andy does a very good job. And I think you're naive to think that football isn't mind games, and it is. It's about, like they made us wait. They came out a few minutes late, you know, and it's little things like that, and all of that is usually done on purpose in football, isn't it? You know, and he does do a very good job at sometimes getting in, and sometimes you don't know why, because it's not like he's shouting at them; he's shouting things at us, and they get triggered. It's quite amusing, and you know, and we can utilise that at times as well, in the same sense that a players can gauge how much banter can I have with the ref, I suppose, is what Fish is saying, with how much banter can I gauge with the opposition, because that's what it is. It's banter at the end of the day, isn't it? It's laughed off afterwards, and if it's not, then perhaps it was took too personally.
I've got a video I want to play. You might have seen it on Twitter already, but if you're not on Twitter, you can watch it right now. Nat, if my computer crashes, I'll leave you to take over for the last 10 minutes. I think hopefully it'll work. If not, it's on our Twitter. So just check this out from yesterday's game.
Shoot! Shoot! Yes! Yes! Come on!
Who's the crazy man in the black tracksuit running on the pitch? He needs booking, he does, I tell you.
But we love to see that. And that's, just give me your thoughts on that video first.
Yeah, it's sick. It's what you love. I mean, Connor takes great videos, and I'm sure he's in the there you go.
Yeah.
But like, you love to see it. You love to see passion. I think as a fans watching managers be passionate, the way sort of going back to Man United now, the way Skinner sort of celebrated when Russo scored, and that's gone a bit semi-viral. You know, that's what you want. You want that kind of, like what Jesus says, you want that banter between the ref, Stourbridge, the opposition. You want it because you live for it. That's what football's about. It's about us versus them. And I think the fact that he turned around and was like, yes, in front of them, it just made it, you know, that's cherry on top, isn't it, really, for me?
Do you think we're missing that rivalry, Andy? I mean, I'm not saying that you've done that on purpose, but like, do you think that there is a rivalry in Tier 5 and in women's football? Or because me and Nat's come into women's football and we've afforded, well, the Man United fan base has afforded a few feathers because we try and create that rivalry. Not in a bad way, no swearing, nothing bad, but we sing, we chant, we boo. What are your thoughts on that as well, Andy?
100% there's rivalry. I said to the ladies, your motivation for today's game, this was yesterday, is the fact that 5 o'clock the week before, when everyone was seeing Stourbridge lose to Sutton Coldfield, I can guarantee you the majority of the West Midlands football, you know, women's pyramid would have laughed and absolutely loved that, because, you know, there's been vocal, you know, there's some social media post somewhere that absolutely berates that Stourbridge pay expenses and Stourbridge put all this investment into their women's team, which is disgusting in many ways because men's teams have been doing it for years. But there's a post somewhere that you know, has got so many women's teams managers and officials kind of berating us for that. So I guarantee you, most people look for our result and will be hoping that we drop points, 100%. And absolutely, yesterday when I celebrated towards their bench, I absolutely did it on purpose, because when they scored their free kick, I looked down the line and he's doing the same to me, you know, to make it 1-1. So it was me giving it a little bit back, and that, you know, that is a bit of banter, and you know, I've got full respect for the opposition managers all the time, but 100% rivalry, and that's what makes it exciting. You know, me and Kidderminster have had it for years, and there's many other teams in and around us will be the same. So yeah, it's there definitely.
That's what I love, man. That's why that's why when I say, oh, you know, women's football, if I could bring anything, it would be that, you know, the banter a bit more. You know, you can laugh at an opposition and you can, you know, want an opposition not to win a game. You know, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean I ain't got respect. It just means, you know, they're my rivals. You know, Willie Kirk, I think he's a great manager. Sadly, he's lost his job, but, you know, there's a bit of tension there between him and Man United, and You know, some Man United fans were like, well, there you go, you know, talking big, saying you're going to win the league. There you go. And he didn't. And I know that other managers are the same. It's just, I think Man United fans just came out and sort of said it straight from the off, and we were like, we don't like you. And not like don't like, but we want a rivalry with you. We'll come up, watch whether we come up and play City and Liverpool and all that. But, you know, I think even like when G said about the whole, even it was you, Andy, about it being in the heads, and I think fans can do that as well. Like the more vocal fans are, the more fans that come down, the more of an atmosphere there is in grounds. You know, it will be that sort of like like intimidation factor home coming to there because they're really good fans and all that kind of thing. I suppose G, Andy, what can fans do? More fans come into Stourbridge. How does it help you guys when you play in, and Andy as a manager?
I think Connor's just made a really good point, which fits into the subject. Really, was that yesterday with the they weren't allowed there, but there was a as Jonathan knows, there was a contingent of our fans, and then there was a core group down the far end. And when I got cautioned yesterday for running on the pitch and celebrating, there was a massive cheer from the far end. And this is in Tier 5 football, and me just laughing. When Mel Rogers scores the third goal to make it 3-1, she runs off the pitch to celebrate in front of their fans, doing as G's doing now, the old, what you're saying now kind of thing. So that's in Tier 5, and respect to Mel Rogers for sticking up for a gaffer there. But it's there, and absolutely, that's what it's about. Fans are massive for us. When we get fans down at the War Memorial, which is 12 player, without a shadow of doubt, these players play extra and extra more, because they've got those fans down there, and this is what the women's game needs. Because it adds to the atmosphere as well. You go down and watch a women's game that's on a park pitch with, and a man and his dog, compared to going to the War Memorial Ground with 200, 300 people, as you witnessed yourself. It's a different ball game then. The fans start to see, new fans start to see, actually, this is a great crowd. So massive importance.
It was a good crowd when we went. It was really good, and I was saying this is better than some WSL. So yeah, it was really good.
It was better than St Andrews. Obviously not the Man United side, but we went later that day, Andy. We went to and the atmosphere at the War Memorial Stadium from, I'll say, Bolchester fans, but generally across that one stadium, one stand, was better and louder than the extra 600 that was at St Andrews in a WSL game, which was great. Do you just want you to have a little word on that video and rivalry and how it motivates you as a player, hearing that banter in the stands?
I think, I'm the sort of player that's all for that, and anybody that knows me or has played with me or against me, I'm like Fisher as well on Marmite. You either love me or hate me, and I think it depends on what team you're on, because I must be a nightmare to play against. Or run the line next to. My new favourite thing is winding the line up. I love that one. Because at our level as well, it's usually one of their coaches or just somebody of theirs with a bib sometimes, and so I love adding that little bit into the game. But you'll have also seen that I'll get a handshake afterwards, because I'll say to them, give as good as you get, and I could be 2-footed and say, do you know what, fair play, and so sometimes I've got to remember my passion can come across as aggression sometimes, and so I have to calm myself back down and say, just letting you know that is banter, and I think that's something. Obviously, we don't want the game to become aggressive, or that's not what we're saying, but just bring that fun aspect into it and understand that. I think what can get forgotten in the women's game, that football's here for entertainment. Its sole purpose is for entertainment. So, come and be entertained, because it is. We have a laugh. There's some mad people come to watch Stourbridge, and there's some mad people playing for Stourbridge, because we're the sort of club. I think Fisher had a good chat with me once, and he was saying Stourbridge is like a home for academy quality players that don't necessarily fit in there. I've not got the attitude that could be coached in an academy. I've tried that and I failed, and we've got a couple of players that are quite, firecrackers, and we've come from certain backgrounds, and that's what clubs like Stourbridge, and we've got other good clubs around us, like Kiddie Harriers, Worcester, Lytown, who are set up well, and I think Stourbridge does that good job at giving that really, really good academy feel to these absolutely crazy people. And you'll know what I mean by that if you come down and watch a game.
Nat, you put a question in the private comments. You just want to shoot at that one then?
Yeah, well, I was going to say it's sort of gone totally, it's going back now. But no, I just want to know Andy's point of view, because I've heard it from agent, I've heard it from another manager, on the rule about selecting players. I think you give a 28-day or 2-week notice or something, and then a player can move. Is that correct?
Yeah, slightly. Yeah, it's our level. It's 7 days notice you give.
7 days. That's it. Yeah.
So 7 days you want to talk to a player. The club can waiver that, so you can talk to them the day after if the club say, yeah, go ahead, talk to the player. And then I think there's a 28-day period where you've got to talk to the player and convince the player to kind of sign over. Once that goes, I think you have to put another 7 days in. I believe that's the actual process. So, but that can happen pretty much any time to a certain point towards the end of the season. So we're good at doing that, but other teams are good at doing that with our players as well. So yeah, that's the rule on it.
Yeah, I just wanted to know your opinion. Do you like the rule? Do you think it should change? Because I've had different people say. I know Reece has come on and been criticised for it. But
I don't know what you would change it to. I don't know what the rule. Would you have transfer windows? It'd be really difficult at this level because you do have players unhappy. They're not. This is not a livelihood for these players. If you imagine you have a transfer window, you've got. I'm going to use G as an example because she's in front of me. She's not playing. She's unhappy. She can't move until that transfer window at this level. It'd be ridiculous, wouldn't it? So I think I don't know. I don't know how you would change it. I think the 7-day rule is okay. I think you can only go for 2 players as well from the same club. So I don't think you can go in and do an overall. I think that's the rule. So which protects you from being hammered by a particular club, especially if you. But on the other hand, on a plus side, we've done it recently where a club's lost their manager. Bit of a change, and I swooped. You swoop and you go for it. You see if there's a bit of upset there, and you know you've got a player that's decent. You go and whack 7 days in to see if they're interested. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But for me, it's a decent rule. You watch one of my best players get 7 days, put in for him now.
There's so much more we can talk about, but if you guys are happy, like maybe come back on before Christmas and maybe do this again because I've got an A4 sheet of paper here with a few notes and I've only gone through half of it. So I've really enjoyed tonight and I know people in the comments and I can tell by the amount of people who have been watching and stayed watching the whole time. They've really enjoyed this and I know I have as well. So yeah, if you guys would like to come back on again before Christmas and give us a bit of an update on Stourbridge and go through a few more topics, that would be great. Yeah, absolutely. Before you go, thank you. Before you go, just give a bit of a shout out to maybe any social medias that you've got or anything that you want to give a bit of a shout out to.
G, go on.
I mean, if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at justg_Thacker, and that I just use Twitter mostly.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think for me, if you can get on and follow Stourbridge ladies, and then all the accounts that kind of link to that, the academy accounts, the girls accounts, that's good. You get to see the whole picture about what's happening. We've got some holiday camps coming up for the juniors, the little kids. That's been advertised all over social media this week. So, yeah, if you can follow us all on Twitter, all those, that'd be great.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah. So just to give everyone a bit of an idea what to expect for the rest of the week. Tomorrow night we've got Matt hosting a bit of a WSL review show with Gareth, Anthony, and maybe myself or one other. Wednesday you've got something planned, haven't you, Nat? So we've got a show going out at 7 o'clock on Wednesday. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Thursday we've got one of the journalists on, Catherine Batty. She's coming back on the show. If you didn't see on the show last time, she was the one who spoke about Carla Solskjaer last week, about her potentially going to play in the Conti Cup. And she also, I don't know if she announced that Willie Kirk's replacement, but she definitely put it on Twitter before so anybody else put it on Twitter. So please tune into that one on Thursday. Friday night is the usual Friday Night Fan Forum with me, Andy, and a few others, and the usual Saturday Night Live as well. So we've got a few shows to look forward to. And Natalie, I'll see you on Sunday up at FC United.
FC, yeah, definitely.
I think we
Cheers,
need to end the
guys.
show playing this video, don't we?
Go on.
Charlie, fucking shoot!
Andy Fisher's Barmy Army! Andy Fisher's Barmy Army!